Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Paul. It's a pleasure for me to introduce you to Dave Bruce and Peter Marquis, and they're going to talk to us about collaboration.
So this presentation is basically about a collaboration project that we did with Guelph and York University. First part that we're going to do a little bit of introduction of ourselves. So we're going to start with York University. That's a picture of Erie Hall, which is at the entrance of the university. And so just a little bit of information about York. It's Canada's third largest university. If I remember the numbers, it's got 55,000 undergrads and grad students. It's got about 7,000 faculty and staff. And it's got 250,000 alumni. It's been around for a few years. It includes 11 faculties, and it offers more than 5,000 courses. It also has some professional schools. It's got a law school, it's got a business school, the Schuler School of Business, and we're just ramping up for engineering school as well. The IT department, a few years ago, we merged the main two IT departments at the university. It's now called UIT, University Information Technology. It's basically divided into three major groups, and it's about 200 employees or so. There's the infrastructure group, there's the application and integration group, and the client solutions and services. I'm part of the infrastructure group, which goes anywhere from cables to server support. Application and integration is for more the application delivery, and client solutions is the client facing. So you're looking at desktop support, client services, and so on. Yeah, first pass off.
So this is University of Guelph. Okay, everybody squint really hard and you can see a cow maybe somewhere on there, but that's my obligatory picture.
Oh, I was switching for you.
Oh, were you? Oh.
So let me go back. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you do it.
You got
So University of Guelph, research intensive, just like a lot of universities we've heard here today. We're gonna have to come up with a new term, even more research intensive or something. Learner centered. About 20,000 undergraduates, so we're smaller than York is, about 3,000 full-time faculty and staff, about 100,000 alumni, $158 million research annually, and about 498 hectares, 1,000 acres, so it's a pretty big campus. You're on island. So CCS, we're the infrastructure people for the university. We're providing the pipes and letting our users do what they need to do. We're trying to move away from a transaction type of process with our clients and make it more of a partnership. So we've three groups, very similar to what York has here. So in the beginning, so I'm going to tell you this story. In the beginning, there was a discussion between two directors, one at York and one at Guelph, and they kind of set the tone for things. So after that, I kind of liken it to a romance, if you want. It was the first call, and that was like going on the internet and Googling the person and just finding out, but you never saw a picture yet, you know? So then we had our first face-to-face, and that was like the blind date. But out of that came some good stuff. So our conference call, so we immediately discovered that our technology stacks were very, very similar, which was a good thing. Matter of fact, it was eerie. They were very, very similar. So we were still tentative at that state. Yeah, it kind of sounds like a good thing to do. You know, I'll have my people call you. And then we started thinking about this, you know, like there's some economy of scale here. This would be a good idea. So then we had our first face-to-face. We were on the blind date. And we had just a fabulous, great discussion. And we started making our plans and how we're going to progress with this journey. And we started talking about the RFP and the requirements that we're going to go through. So it was founded on some very solid grounds, and it's just continued.
Yeah. So what were some of the drivers around this particular project, this was a backup restore project. So we started talking about technologies, and as Dave mentioned, they're eerily similar. So we started asking, okay, what backup solutions do you currently use? Oh, we use Semantic Net Backup, right? We've been using it for quite a few years. Okay, what's your central storage? Oh, we use NetApp filers. Yeah, that's what we use as well. Then we started talking about VMware. Yeah, we both use VMware as well. And we host our VMware storage on the NetApp filers. So it was very similar. So it kind of, it really fit for a joint project, right? And as a result, if we were procuring a new solution, right, it would probably, if we found the best solution, it would probably fit both organizations. There was also good timing worked out. We were both looking for new solutions. The old solution was a little outdated. For instance, we still used LTO3 tapes on our tape drives. And just because of capacity, storage growth, as everybody knows here, you just needed the additional capacity. So we both have fairly tight timelines. We really need to replace it for a variety of reasons. We were looking for something that's more current technology. We were looking for the ability to have an offsite backup location as well. So right now, York has tapes. We send them offsite, and that's our offsite strategy. One of the possibilities that we're going to have is we're going to go all disk, and we needed an offsite location. And if you go and you procure, a commercial offsite location, that can be quite expensive. And the other possibility, which is not quite in scope of this project, but for feature, is we could use it as a possible DR location. We could move some of our critical services over there. We'll talk a little bit about that later. So some of the benefits that we discussed in some of our meetings about, what would be the benefits of doing a joint project. As we talked, there was the benefit of the offsite location. That's, in essence, it's free, right? I mean, you need to move the equipment there, you need to procure the equipment, but you don't need to pay for the location. The network's already there from the other university and so on. There was some hope for purchasing power because there's 3 universities. Vendors will probably want to say, oh, we were able to deliver the solutions for a couple of universities. It's a bigger purchase, so maybe we could get some cost savings. As well, because there's the 2 groups, larger brain trust, more ideas in play. When you review, certainly during the RFP process, you had more eyes looking at it. We're able to catch more errors that we may have had, more things that we needed to include. We're able to identify more risks. So it just helped out during the implementation, which is kind of the phase we're at now. It allows us to, more ideas, different solutions that the different universities may have had. And there was just a belief that because of all these reasons, if we work together, we would have a better solution rather than working separately and not having as good of a solution. And the other point is York had a slight more experience in the RFP process. I myself have been through a few RFPs, and there's a bunch more that the university has done. And so we led the RFP process. In cooperation with the procurement of Guelph.
So this is our process, kind of lengthy, but we put together fairly quickly and tried to stay pretty close to what was going. Most of it is the RFP part, and that was driven by the York people in the procurement department. So just step through some of the places that we went through here. So our strategy was to focus on requirements. What we wanted to do is, instead of doing research and kind of focusing down on the 2 or 3 or half a dozen technologies, we said, let's just talk about a very generic backup and recovery system and let the vendors be innovative. And we tried to really push that out to them. So we started with a clean slate. We have had a lot of experience with net backup for a number of years. I mean, it was almost 14 years that we had net backup when we bought it as Veritas. So we we wanted to just start describing our generic backup recovery system, and we came up with about 100, and we honed it down from thousands, I think, to about 130 requirements. Then we started looking at the requirements here. This was a long process. I mean, this whole process from beginning to end has been a long, long time, but we focused a lot of time specifying the requirements because we really wanted to hold the vendors to what we were specifying. So we both had net backup experience. We had net backup issues. So we wanted to make sure that going forward, we weren't without the tools that we needed to, that we haven't had in the past. And so we defined our requirements separately, and then we combined them and expanded them and went from there. So then we started the RFP process. And Sally Azim in York led it, and she was the mother that we never had. And she guided us and cajoled us and provided a whole lot of leadership to us, which I was very, very thankful for. And she led us through a very long process. So this provided us to, at any time we said we could walk away. So even though we were, yes?
When you say very long, are you talking 6 months, 18 months? Like, what are you talking? Can you just clarify?
I wish I was, actually. Coming July 16th, it'll be 2 years. So this is a long process.
And that's since the original conversation.
Since the original first phone call.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've been going steady for a couple. So I was saying each party could walk away. So we were putting forward an RFP, but we had written it up so that we could pick and choose, or we could just say, no, nothing on the table there that I wanted. So we weren't bound in our RFP process. And then the proposal selections, so I'm sure everybody's been through an RFP process. It is very long. And so we started reviewing the proposals, selecting them, listening to vendors' proposals. One of the vendors was saying, if you do this and you do this, and I'm thinking in my mind, we're just dating. This guy wants us to move in with each other. You know, it's like, so we really went from all over the map in how we were with our shotgun blast of proposals and what came back from the vendors. And we did a fairly deep dive into what all the proposals were, and we sought out some guidance from Gartner on a couple of occasions. The interviews with Gartner were very, very helpful. We had 2 sessions, one conference call with us, and then I think, I forget who it was, but York had a separate engagement with them as well at a conference. So in hindsight, I would have let them look at our RFP to begin with, but yeah, it was still very, very worthwhile to have that kind of guidance to make sure that, you know, we're on the mark, we're on the track, we're getting technology that we're after. Then we started the deep dives into the proposals. Took a lot of time, but we were attempting to get comfortable with the solution, and we wanted to understand the nuances. Not saying we achieve that 100%. You always get little wake-up calls here and there, but the deep dive did help us. We probably could have shortened or abbreviated that, but we wanted to hang in there and really understand and get that comfort level before we actually made our final decision. Solution.
So just talk briefly about the solution. That's not the crux of this presentation, but we ended up with a hybrid solution. So after all, we reviewed all the proposals. We ended up picking CommVault as the backup restore. With the backend storage, so we ended up with, and actually just to preface that, with the fact that we ended up and we picked the same solution. So as Dave mentioned, we had the opportunity to say, go our own way if we didn't like what the other university picked. So this is a solution that we picked for both universities. So as I was mentioning, the backend storage disk is NetApp filer. That was very beneficial for us because we were both familiar with the technology already. We already have it in-house. So the learning curve wasn't as high as it was, for example, on the CommVault. There's Dell servers who run the CommVault software. I mean, that's just just servers, so not critical. And because we were going to have an offsite location hosting our data, we needed to go across the network to push it across. We didn't feel comfortable necessarily doing it unencrypted across the wire, so we instituted a new technology. Our network group did that for us, the Viata VPN. I think you guys are still working on getting that going. So it was great. So we were already familiar with some of the technology, some of them we weren't. So some learning curves and others that wasn't so much. So this is basically a simple diagram of our solution. You basically have the agents up top, the usual Unix, Windows, Solaris, HPUX. We have our virtual infrastructure, and then we have Oracle, database like Oracle, MS SQL, and so on. Then you got the software in the middle, and basically down here, you have the NetApp filers. The yellow cylinder there being our primary filers, that's our central storage. And then we'd have a primary backup at our location and a secondary offsite filer at a remote location. What we basically did is we bought, they really come in 2 units, but they're 4 filer heads for redundancy. We put 2 at the primary location. So Guelph did the same, and then we put 2 at the remote location, at the remote university. So that gives us some redundancy as well within the sites. The important thing for us as well is that because we're using the NetApp backend as the storage, we're able to utilize some of the CommVault technologies. They used to call it Snap Protect, now they call it IntelliSnap. So it really, all it does is it controls the backup. It takes a snapshot on the primary, and then with NetApp facilities called Snap Vault and Snap Mirror, then we're able to Snap Vault it to the primary and then Snap Mirror to the offsite backup. The snap mirroring is very beneficial because you actually, all it does is it copies the change blocks. So you're not actually moving all the data across. So our plan right now actually is we're doing a baseline. So you do first full, and then after that you do all incrementals. So you're not actually pushing a lot of data across the pipe. That was important for us because the internet connection that we have to work with is like 1 gigabit across the wire.
So the benefits. So what are the benefits of this collaborative process that we had started? So we still continue to talk about our implementations. We have a weekly phone call, lots of emails, still flies back and forth because we're discovering problems, different problems between the 2 of us. And so we're still collaborating at that level as well. Does the benefit outweigh the effort? Well, this is a 2-year effort, but I still think that at the end, we got a really good solution. So I really think that it did outweigh the effort that we put into this, because we do have what I consider a superior outcome from this. And that's because there were many eyes, many brains, many different viewpoints and perspectives, and I think that really helped. And we got some synergy going. So they were thinking of things we hadn't even considered, and vice versa. So it wasn't just 2 people in a room trying and hammering it out. This was a synergetic type of experience that we had. And we had support from and to for each other. So that really helped. There were times when it was tough sledding, and I think just the fact that you had somebody else who could look at it a different way would help. And I think by doing the RFP this way, combined, we certainly got more vendor attention than we would have if we had gone on our own. So savings, time and money, that's what our savings come down to. We got better pricing. I can't quantify that to $1.95 or anything like that, but I feel based on what we've previously been getting for pricing, we were getting much better at this point in time. We were able to buy our bulk discounts for our licenses, and we baked in some future price guarantees as well. And so we can take different options over a 5-year period. And so I also think that the resources were saved. So had I gone out with my team and done all of this, I think in the end, we saved between the 2 of us. downsides. So, no. So downsides of collaboration. So yeah, it's not always all great. And what would I encounter? Well, in personalities, I think that's a big thing. Some are going to be not so great, and then next some are. We were very, very lucky with all of our group in working on that. And timing is everything. We just happened to be right at the right spot. And that really helped us as well. But there were coordination and communication challenges along the way. But I still think the things that contributed to the success was the similarity in our projects. Our congruent goals, we were both kind of heading off in the same direction. Sorry. And I think because we had an accommodating and receptive attitude, so we weren't just in there bulldozing our ways around. We were saying, we're going to suffer from the same solution here. We're going to gain from the same solution. So once we had that in our forefront, it was much easier. So communication and coordination. So yeah, we didn't have all the tools. Something like a Dropbox-like application where we had like tons of documents. Document management, something face-to-face would have been nice. Shareable calendars, meeting arranger. So just all those types of things that were kind of augmented, or not augmented, they were exaggerated more by the distance between the two colleges. But we did it. We just did it with emails and some phones. So I think we did pretty good. But if I was doing it again, I'd be investing some time and effort in securing some of these tools.
So what were some of the lessons learned? So I actually like some of this, recognize the mistakes, observe what works, document them, and then share them. And that's kind of what we're doing now. We're sharing them. So we believe, and we still strongly believe, that the cooperative process led to a better solution. Now, what aided us, as we've mentioned a few times already, is the similar technologies. It allowed us to cooperate together. So depending on what project you're working on and what university you're working with, it may be applicable, it may be not. You just have to find the right partner, and this just worked out for us. I find it's not critical that your old stack necessarily be the same. It does help if the new stack is the same, right? Just because then you're working towards the same goal and you can share. But if, for instance, we had been running an EMC solution and someone else had been running a net backup and we were moving to CommVault, I think this still would have worked. One of the things that we talked about was, in essence, we still ended up with, yes, it's the same solution per se, but they're still separate solutions. We may have been able to have some more synergies. And they were discussed at some point that we just have one backup system at York and one at Guelph, and then they would actually host our backups versus we basically have a rack that sits at the remote university that's ours, and we're really hosting our own equipment. I guess there's still this, and me myself, I'm to blame, right? You still want to hold on to your own equipment and have control over it. So that maybe we could have done a little better there and have some better synergies. The distance and didn't help. Sometimes it was difficult to have the face-to-face. Scheduling the meetings with the vendors sometimes was difficult. We kind of took turns. First, Guelph would come to York, and then York would go to Guelph. We're about, for those who don't know, we're about an hour away driving, so it's not too far. So this may not be applicable if you need to do face-to-face meetings and so on, if you're really at long distances. I know people here are from across Canada, so you may want to find a partner that's relatively close by. At least I found that the face-to-face meetings occasionally were very beneficial. You got to see the people you're working with, you're able to have conversations. Although we did have a mix of face-to-face when was needed, lots of conference calls as well. This seems to be fit better with larger implementations as well. Like I wouldn't necessarily do this cooperative model for smaller projects, But for larger projects, I think there's a lot of benefits in there, as we've discussed. So backup restore being a large initiative, it fit the bill. And the other benefit that you have is you're implementing the same solution, you're facing the same technology, you're facing the same problems, you can share, right? So for instance, when we went through the RFP, when we put the requirements together, they had their own requirements, we had our own requirements, we put them together. The stuff that we missed, maybe Guelph didn't miss. The stuff that Guelph missed, maybe we didn't miss. So we had a much more complete, for example, RFP process because of that. And we had more eyes looking at it. We were able to catch any omissions or mistakes that we made. So what we're going to do in the future? What are some of the plans? First thing is archiving. So archiving was actually part of the RFP. It wasn't a critical core component of the RFP, but we wanted to have the ability to use archiving at a later time. So that's something that as soon as we complete the backup restore implementation, we'll probably most likely will be looking at it. And where are we going to look at it? One of the reasons to look at it is archiving is a lot cheaper than backup. And as we all know, we have lots of data at our universities. A lot of it is not accessed, it's just sitting there. Probably a minority that gets access. So you will save a lot of money that way. The technology is already in place. CommVault is already in place. It's integrated, one pane of glass. It does the same thing. We already have the remote site set up at that point. We have the remote storage. Why not utilize it? That way the data is protected. We'll have a copy at the primary university, copy at the secondary university as well. So that's highly likely something that we're going to be looking at in the future. As Dave mentioned, we got some price guarantees. We got some price guarantees for the archiving as well. The other thing that people started talking about, I have a remote site at the other university. There's other things I can do. Right? Because before that, we didn't really have an up and running remote site. Certainly our university has 2 data centers, but they're close by. They have they share some single points of failure. So this was a good opportunity to utilize it for certain things. So first discussion that actually came up was, what about our DR plan or our DR documentation? Right? So for us currently, we have it sitting in Toronto. We could have it sitting in Guelph, and then if we do have a disaster, we lose network connectivity. There's some big disaster. We will have it available at Guelph. Something else that was thought about. What about web presence? What if we lose our network connectivity at one of the universities? We could put a server over there, and even if it just says, we're down right now, we're working on it. We hope to be up as soon as possible. It's better than just disappearing off the network, right? So that would be step number one. We thought about email presence as well. So rather than having people sending email, bouncing as if you disappeared off the network, off the face of the earth, maybe a queuing system. So you queues the email. Then from there, we thought, if that works, that would be great. And these are all just concepts right now. It's just discussions that we've been having internally at both universities. Maybe we can move some of our most critical services there as well. So maybe expand the web service so it doesn't just say, we're down right now, we're going to come back as soon as possible. But they have our core web information there. Obviously, we can't have it all there because web apps are now so they're so large and there's so many of them that you're going to have to pick and choose what you want to put there. The other possibilities, email, maybe learning management system, don't know. These are all just ideas right now.
If I may, just at that point on your DR planning, have you given any consideration to how you would switch over your network addresses if you had to actually move location? So, because obviously you guys are in different IP spaces now for your data centers. And
yes.
you flip over to the other data center to bring up those critical services. how you would actually handle the transition for the addressing.
There hasn't been a lot of discussion about that. However, with the Viata VPN, I believe, and I guess there's nobody here to prove me wrong, that we do have York network IPs at Guelph, right? So they provide us basically a public IP at Guelph, so we can push traffic through the VPN, and we do have our own space at Guelph. So I'm assuming we can utilize similar, but it hasn't really been thought about, right? These are just concepts right now.
And the other thing to consider is that if in a DR situation, we've got a 1 gig pipe and we might have 30, 40 terabytes to send across. So it may be we just rent a truck and go and get our stuff and bring it back, right? Depending on the disaster.
So those are the things that you got to take into consideration.
Yes.
In fact, how it would actually work.
Yes.
So for now, all we did is we talked to the proponents, we talked to the professional services that we engaged, and we just wanted to make sure, do we have enough bandwidth for backups? The other things, not sure. Currently, we have 10 gig connectivity. Guelph has 1 gig, and I'm sure Guelph will be kind enough to opt out if need be.
We'll clone it.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking for more opportunities. I think we've seen the benefits of it, and we'd like to be vigilant for any other opportunities that might be available. Each organization has different strengths, so that helps us out. Different technology strengths, different procurement strengths, what may have you, and we try to utilize the university that has the most experience with that. And although, as Dave mentioned, this process took a long time. It was our first process, our joint project. Hopefully when we have our future projects together, they'll be a lot more smoother and take a lot less time. But we all see the benefits of it, and we're certainly staying vigilant for other opportunities. And I'll let Dave give some review points.
So that's our story. We just happen to have things fall into place at the right time. So those things were driving us. We started a process. We arrived at a solution. We've outlined all the benefits and the downsides. So this isn't always all smooth, but again, it outweighs the effort, I still believe. And we've learned some lessons, and we're looking towards the future and how we can continue this kind of collaborative effort. In one of the sessions, the speaker was challenging people, next year do this, I want you to try this. I guess my little challenge would be if you're going to do the types of things we're doing here, a lot of this is commodity stuff. We're all doing the same things, maybe miles apart. Let's try a collaborative process. It's been excellent for us.
I'd like to encourage you to continue doing this. Thomas and Mount Allison University have been consolidating a data set, 2 data centers into one with common VM structure. We have a common SAN, and we now have a disaster recovery co-located at another institution. We do data replication, so I can bring my data center back in 10 minutes. This is the right way to go. We save tons of money. We save energy by cutting our power consumption and cooling in half. It's incredible. So keep going. This is the right way.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I think this is, and I think this is like, if you look in smaller scale, you look at the university itself, you've got all sorts of different faculties, and they're each doing their own thing, right? This is a bigger scale. Now we're looking at university level and trying to share and some of those, that functionality.
How formal are the agreements between the institutions in terms of the co-location and the server rooms and access to it and privacy and things like that?
Yeah, we have a memorandum of agreement. One of them says I stay out of the computer room. But yeah, we ran it through legal and they've had a look at it, if we want to cover all the aspects of it. So, but it's fluid enough too. And
what we've tried to do is make it hands-off. so that we can do everything remotely.
Yep.
And if we need any help, we'll just phone call and say, you know, maybe the power cable has slipped off, or we need to move a network cable, the network is not working, right?
First, several questions online.
Okay.
You were both using semantic net backup and both switched to CommVault. In itself, that's a big change in a large project. Why did you change the backup software?
Well, I just didn't find that backup was progressing along the lines that some of the other companies were. And that was my big thing. It was addressed, CommVault was addressing the issues that we had with its hybrid process. You know, it's the thing that says, you know, you're gonna do a backup and passes it off to NetApp, and NetApp does the backup. It's only little changes that are trickling down the pipe. Semantic, they just wanted to solve some more of what we already had.
I think that, well, for one, CommVault is a leader, according to Gartner, anyways. But that wasn't the sole decision point. We went to an RFP process and we had criteria. And we basically looked at all the criteria, we evaluated it, and that was the solution that came first. And we liked the idea that they had such integration with our storage, so it made the backup of our storage much easier. I know we have about 50% of the storage we back up on NetApp filers. You probably even have even more, right? So that was a nice feature to have.
Do you have a shared SLAs with the vendor?
That's a good question. I don't believe so. And this goes back to the point in which it's the same solution. You know, you can mirror it from one university to the other, but in a sense, they're separate. So we didn't actually merge that point. You've merged a little more than we have, right? And that's maybe the next step.
Great ideas starting organically, as you described. You relied on procurement support, but what about project management support?
Well, luckily enough, you already had a project manager for the implementation part. We kind of went through it all ourselves leading up to it. And we were both very busy, so hence the 2-year time lag. We didn't have anything really pushing us in terms of, well, we had some distant end-of-life issues coming up, but that wasn't really pushing it. So from the implementation on, it's been, we've had a project management system. Has this project gone
Do you want to take a question here?
Oh, yes.
Based on your success, is this something that you would or are considering extending to other institutions? Maybe in some future procurement processes?
I'm not the decision maker on that, but I certainly would be looking towards that. And I believe that our senior management would look for opportunities with other universities. If it's going to benefit both organizations, why not?
But I mean a larger group of institutions rather than just the two on the next procurement.
Again, so more of a conglomerate of institutions. We'd probably talk about that as well.
Yes.
You seem to indicate that you've gotten rid of tape, so I'm wondering how you mitigate the malicious user / catastrophic vendor failure aspect.
So we had tape before. Guelph didn't. They were already tapeless. The way we mitigate that is by having a copy locally and a copy at Guelph. So having 2 copies.
But in that snapshot scenario, if you were to catastrophically lose at the beginning, it would replicate those changes to the backup site.
And it would replicate if we had tapes too.
But in an example of like a malicious user, I could delete your data and it would replicate that deletion. If they were offsite tape, I would not be able to.
Oh, I see what you're. We've lived for 6 years without tape. That was.
You're suggesting. Sorry. You're suggesting someone getting to our backup devices and deleting stuff, or on our primary storage? Because if it's primary storage, it's just like any other backup system, right? We're not replicating the data. We're taking daily backups of the data. So we're going to have 60 days for us right now of backup data. So if they delete the data today, we'll just restore it from yesterday, right? So we actually have multiple snapshots of the data. I'm not sure if I answered your question. Maybe
Not clear.
maybe we can talk after.
Is the project gone through a formal closure process?
No, we're just in the implementation phase now.
Yes, so just not closed yet.
No.
Stay tuned. Talk briefly about VMware. Did you consider combining licenses and leverage your purchasing power with VMware?
We didn't consider that at the stage. We were focused on backup and recovery as opposed to merging our VMware, our virtual infrastructure. Lily?
Curious about 2 points. You mentioned that you would have liked to have Gartner review your RFP. Is that what you said?
Mhm.
Did they mention that they would have done that for you, or did you
That's a
find-
service that they do offer.
They do,
yes.
okay.
Yep. Don't know why exactly. It was just a timing thing.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Do you think they would have caught things, or did you let them review it anyways to see what?
Yeah, they did look at the RFP.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And did they come up
And
with-
they looked also at the proposals that were put forward.
Okay. And what was, say, one of the biggest things that they caught that you would have liked to have changed, for example? Or did they come back with a review?
One thing was, they said we should push harder for better pricing, because that's what he was seeing in the industry. And that we weren't fully getting what he's seeing. So that gave us some ammunition to at least go forward.
Excellent, excellent.
We had some conversations with Gartner early on, just talking about what the technologies are out there. And then, as Dave mentioned, we had some conversations after when we were just about to negotiate, just to get some information from them. And it was, they suggested we push for better pricing because they know what's out there. They have all the information, and we might not have that.
And that negotiation as part of the RFP process has to go on with all of the vendors, does it not, or did you do the negotiation?
No,
after
we
you
had
selected it?
weeded out and we were down to one proposal.
Okay. And the last thing is, with respect to collaboration, would you have found, say, video collaboration a useful tool during this project for that face-to-face? Or does that?
There was times that would have helped, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. We could, and Bruce, Dave mentioned some tools that we may use in the future for collaboration, because that may avoid some of the trips. I think the ones that are a little harder to avoid was when we had vendor presentations.
Sure,
Right.
sure. Even something as simple as, Skype in a meeting room and some very good web cameras would help, rather than trying to invest in a collaboration suite or
Exactly.
something like that.
Exactly.
And then prove that works, and then somehow bring that into the next collaboration project. If it doesn't exist, we need dollars for this tool or something like that.
Okay.
Just one question, just on your HR and your people, in your individual shops, did they have any concerns about this particular project and collaboration that would be between the two groups? I'm thinking more from if people are unionized, if there's any about job security, any reservations about someone else coming in, having access to their data, more from how to handle that change management on the HR side as opposed to the change management.
I think everyone was fairly cooperative and saw this as beneficial. I don't think this was necessarily going to have any impact on positions or anything like that, so I don't think there was an issue there. And for the impact of having access to data and so on, that went through legal, right? And they approved it, right? I don't know where, I think it's not been, well, it's got to be approved. We moved the equipment there.
Good, that's good to hear.
Gotta be legal, it's there now, it's working.
Yeah, but you went through legal. We had to get that approved and make sure did the risk assessment and so on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.